What's up guys? Today we're looking at one of the Druid's tankiest builds, the Pulverize Werebear. This build is focused around dealing huge AoE damage with Pulverize, all while stacking tons of damage reduction and healing up any damage you manage to take. Let's start by seeing what makes this build work. First, before we get too far into the build, I wanted to go over a couple of the mechanics that are going to dictate some of the skill choices we have. Aspect of the Earth Sign Horror, it makes it so that our Pulverize is now an Earth skill. This also means that it will be a nature skill. I know it doesn't say it, but I'm 99% sure it will work like that. The other one is Grizzly Rage. And the way this works is while you're in this form, you can only use Werebear skills or skills you have converted into Werebear skills. So this is going to choose what kind of skills we go for. So taking a look at the skill tree, we're going to start with Maul because we do want to use these Werebear skills. And I go all the way out to Fierce Maul. The increased range and radius made it feel much more playable. Still not my favorite generator, but because we are using Grizzly Rage, we need to take this. Going on to this tree, our main skill Pulverize, we're going to max that out. The first point here, every 12 seconds that you remain healthy, you'll get an overpower. And then you can choose either node here. If you like the stun, go for that. Personally, I like the 20% damage reduction. You're going to notice we have a lot of ways to reduce damage in this build. They're going to start to stack up quickly. We have 3 points into Wild Impulses. Hopefully Spirit Cost won't be a problem later, and I'll show you why in a bit. We're going to go into 6% crit chance to close enemies because we're always going to be on top of them. 9% damage reduction while we're in Werebear form. So we already have multiple sources of damage reduction coming through. We have Cyclone Armor maxed out for the beginning part of the build when we're just on aspects. We're going to have an aspect that also gives us physical damage reduction with this. We have up here, every 10 seconds, you'll get a buff that when you get hit for the next 2 seconds, you'll take 30% damage reduction. We have Debilitating Roar. Once we drop Cyclone Armor later, we can put points into here, which will reduce the cooldown, and we can have really high uptime on this. This gives us a little bit of Fortify and a little bit of healing. Going down here, we have Trample, which is our movement ability. Feels really nice to move around. The node behind it gives it a really solid damage boost as well. You don't have to take this one. You can also grab a point out of Cyclone Armor and put it down here if you want a little bit more spirit on your Trample. Over here is where we start to notice the nature and the earth skills coming into effect. So earth skills deal increased damage to slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back enemies. We have while you have Fortify, for over 50% of your maximum life, your earth skills deal increased damage, and we're going to be constantly filling up and maintaining our Fortify. And then critical strikes with earth skills fortify you for 7% base life. So our Pulverize will be an earth skill, so it'll be fortifying us. Over here, I'm not a super big fan of these nodes personally, but I know a lot of people like the overpower aspect. It's kind of underpowered in my opinion and not great ways to scale it, but I put this in the build anyway because I know a lot of people like to overpower. So we have 1 point here and then 3 points in here. Every 20 seconds, our next Werebear skill will overpower. So next we have Defiance. Nature magic skills deal increased damage to elites. Pretty nice. Circle of Life. Nature magic skills that consume spirit, which is our Pulverize, will heal for 3% of our maximum life. So this is our second little bit of healing after Debilitating Roar. Then we have Resonance. Nature magic skills deal 6% increased damage. This isn't super strong node, but there's not too many other places to put this. You can move them around a little bit, but 6% damage, not too bad. Finally, we have our ultimate skill, which is the main focus of the build. You go into a Dire Werebear. For 10 seconds, you gain 20% bonus damage and 20% damage reduction. Every second that passes, your damage bonus goes up by 3%. And this will last up to 10 seconds and then plus 1 second for a kill up to an additional 20 seconds. We can extend that even more, and I'll show you how in a bit. You are unstoppable while Grizzly Rage is active, meaning you cannot be crowd controlled in any way. And every second, we're gaining fortified life. Finally, our capstone is going to be Earthen Might. Because we changed Pulverize to an earth skill, we're able to use this. Basically, whenever you hit, you have a lucky hit chance to restore all of your spirit and make all of your attacks critical strikes for the next 5 seconds. Critical strikes also increase the chance to proc Earthen Might. So I mentioned one of the aspects before. There's another one I want to talk about that's going to pull a lot of our synergies together, and that's aspect of the quicksand. Damage from earth skills slow enemies hit by 50% up to 5 seconds. That's a pretty decent slow, pretty long duration, but slow is not really that big of a deal. So why are we using this? Well, one of the reasons is our gem and our weapon. You gain critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. Slow does count as a crowd control, so that's really important. All the way down on our skill tree, we talked about Crushing Earth. This is bonus damage to slowed targets. In our Paragon tree, we have Earthen Devastation right here. Your Earth skills deal 30% increased damage to enemies afflicted by crowd control. So that's activating all of these. Finally, though, the most important one, we have Aspect of the Umbral. If you have this all the way maxed out, anytime you crowd control an enemy, you'll gain 4 of your primary resources. So if you hit 10 enemies with Pulverize, which casts 35 spirit, you're going to be gaining back 40 spirit. This is going to be very key for keeping our resource up while we're going through the maps. So a couple of the other aspects, aspect of the cyclonic force, this is what makes it so our cyclone armor actually gives us physical damage reduction. And the reason we're actually able to use cyclone armor with this, I know I said we can only use Werebear or earth skills, but cyclone armor has a passive effect that is maintained even when you go into Grizzly Rage. It won't be on your bar anymore, but you still will have the passive damage reduction. Aspect of the Earth Sign Horror, we talked about this, mainly for the Pulverize as an Earth skill. The tectonic spikes themselves, I don't think really do that much damage in my opinion. On the pants, we just have Aspect of Might. This will probably be replaced later with Unique, but it's a nice little, 6-second damage reduction if you use your left click, your maul once in a while. This one. Ghostwalker, this is really important for the build. Basically, we always have Unstoppable up through Grizzly Rage. So this gives us an extra 25% move speed, and it allows us to pass through units. So you can walk through a group of mobs, get right in the middle of them, and set up for a perfect Pulverize. On our weapon, we're actually going to use a two-hander, and this is really important because we're going to use the Shockwave aspect. A two-hander will double this effect. So if you have a 130% roll, this will go all the way up to 260%. Basically, it makes it so that your Pulverize hits again and shoots out a ranged attack. This is the key to making this build work and feeling really good. On our amulet, we have Aspect of Retaliation. We're pretty much going to be max Fortify at all time through Earth skill crits and through Grizzly Rage Fortify. So with this on our necklace, we get a 50% bonus. So if you have 40%, that's all the way up to 60% increased damage when you're at max Fortify. Next, we have Aspect of the Rampaging Warbeast. Now, this, I've talked about this before, but this could be extremely good or pretty good. Basically, it increases the duration of your Grizzly Rage up to 5 seconds. So, if you're getting kills, 20 seconds plus 5 seconds, this can go up to 25 seconds. And then every single time you crit, and remember, we're using Earthen Might, which gives us a 100% crit chance, you gain a stacking critical strike damage buff, 10% for the duration. I don't know exactly if this is uncapped, but if you walk into a pack of monsters and you attack with 100% crit chance, who knows what's going to happen, but this sounds like this could be a ton of crit damage. An aspect of their umbral, which we talked about. Going over our boons next, in the deer category, you're going to take wariness. You're pretty much always going to take this on any druid build. The other options aren't really that strong. 10% reduced damage from elites, really good anyway. Next, in the eagle category, you can take the crit chance or the attack speed if you want, but once you get Earthen Might rolling and you have a pretty high uptime on it, Avian Wrath is going to be exactly what you want for this kind of build. It's a lot of critical strike damage. In the wolf category, we have a few options, but personally, I like Calamity. This extends the duration of our Grizzly Rage. Now, I don't know if this works for every source of the duration extend. So for example, I don't know if this adds on to the kill duration extend. I don't know if it works with rampaging, but at the very least, it adds on to the baseline of our duration, and we're looking at pretty high uptime. Finally, in the snake category, this is a tricky one. We have 3 options here. So the first one, Obsidian Slam. I know a lot of people are going to want to take this one, and I think you definitely should if you like this. This is going to help smooth out your gameplay and give you much more overpowers. This feels really good. The thing is, though, we have access to Masochistic, which I think is one of, if not the strongest boons in general. Critical strikes with shape-shifting skills heal you for 3% of your maximum life. This makes it so that every time you get Earthen Might, you have a 100% crit chance. All of your hits are healing you up. It's going to combo with a unique we're going to talk about here shortly, but until you get the unique, you could run Obsidian Slam. The last option, though, Calm Before the Storm. Nature magic skills, and remember we turned our Pulverize into a nature magic skill, has up to a 15% chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate by 2 seconds. This is what's really going to push us closer and closer to having 100% uptime on Grizzly Rage. I think it's really hard to drop Calm Before the Storm. Masochistic is a huge amount of healing, which we're going to be taking so much reduced damage. Having that little bit of healing to like keep us topped is going to feel really good, I think. Obsidian Slam is so good too. It's a really tough choice, but I think I would choose these two if I had an option. For the gems, we talked about the weapon gem, critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies, which we're getting through quicksand. On the armor, we have damage reduction while fortified. And then in the jewelry, we have resistance to all elements, or you can choose one element if you need it. Looking at the uniques now, you don't need to use all of these. I just wanted to show you guys a couple of the options you do have. Harlequin crest, everyone's going to want this. This is a given. Insatiable Fury, Werebear form is now your true form, and you gain +2 ranks to all Werebear skills. This doesn't really do anything mechanically for you. It just gives you +2 ranks to your skills, which is, you know, could be pretty nice. Temerity, this is one that I'm pushing really hard on Druid, and a reason I really like Masochistic. This basically functions as like an overheal. If you're at maximum health and you're healing from, you know, crits with your shapeshifting skills, then you're turning that into barrier. So you're not losing the healing, you're still gaining value out of it, which I think is really, really strong. A couple rings that maybe would work. Ring of Starless Skies. Each consecutive core skill cast reduces the resource cost of your next core skill by up to a maximum of 40%. This could help with resource. Mother's Embrace. If a core skill hits 5 or more enemies, the resource 20 to 40% of the resource is refunded. I think Umbral plus Quicksand is going to be better than both of these, but these are still options. You know, if you get them, don't be afraid to try them out and use them. Some of the stats you want to look out for in this build. Willpower is the main stat for Druid. Movement speed, of course. Resource cost reduction you can get on gear, which will help keep up your pulverizes. Cooldown reduction in general will be really good. You can also get crit chance, even though we'll have 100% crit chance with Earthen Might. The times we don't have Earthen Might, crit chance will be nice, and it'll help us get Earthen Might up more often. Critical strike damage, damage to crowd controlled enemies. Remember, when you're using quicksand, it'll slow them down, and that'll count as a crowd control. Damage to close enemies, damage to elites. You can look for plus ranks on your skills. So Pulverize is a good one. You can also look for +2 defensive skills, because we do have debilitating roar and cyclone armor, so that'll get a lot of value from that too. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the Paragon board. I do want to keep reiterating that these are very much a work in progress, not concrete, not perfect. It's kind of just want to show you guys what I think will be good, which boards are good, which nodes are good, which glyphs are good, just so you can get an idea going. You can follow the board, but again, it's not perfectly optimized. I did leave it not at max level. You can get 20 renown points. And so this is roughly around like early 90s, maybe 92-ish with no renown points. So you could get much more points in this. I just wanted to get a, you know, simple board going. So you always start out in the starter node and we work our way up. These glyphs, they do have better boards they can work on. You can put them in any board you want, but there'll be better nodes surrounding it. I like Spirit. Spirit makes it so your core skills, Pulverize, do more damage. And then whenever you crit, it increases the damage enemy takes from you up by 2%, up to 12% for 20 seconds. So this synergizes really well with Pulverize. But as we work our way out, I like Survival Instincts, I think is a really solid board. The node itself, while in Werebear form, you deal 1% increased damage up to 50% for every 1% difference in current life percent between you and the enemy. Bit of a mouthful, but basically, if I understand this correctly, it's kind of like an execute. So as you do damage to a monster, and you keep your health up, you'll do more and more damage. So if you walk up, you know, you do your first hit and they don't die, you do a follow-up hit, you're going to be doing even more damage on that one. The next glyph we have here, Fang and Claw. I really like this one. It buffs all your magic nodes in radius. And here we have really good magic nodes, damage in Werebear form, and total armor while in Werebear form. And also while in Werebear form, close enemies will take 12% increased damage from you. I think this is pretty good. Over here, you can kind of sneak in real quick and grab Ancestral Guidance. After spending 75 Spirit, you deal 30% increased damage for 5 seconds. This works really well with the Quicksand plus Umbral combo, because you're still spending a good amount of Spirit with Pulverize, but you're regenerating it all back. Once you get some resource cost reduction going on Pulverize as well, it'll be a little harder to proc this, but I think it won't be a problem at all. So we can go out through the top here, and we can work into the Earthen Devastation board, which we talked about before. Your Earth skills deal 30% increased damage to enemies afflicted by crowd control, which we are applying with the Quicksand. Glyph we have here, the Werebear glyph. You gain 10% damage reduction while in Werebear form. I've lost track of how many damage reduction sources we have now, but there's a lot. And then the bonus is each willpower will give you 2% increased damage while in Werebear form. Moving over here, we kind of just use the Constricting Tendrils tree to work our way back around the top of the Ancestral Guidance board to pick up 2 more glyphs here. Like I said, you don't have to path like this. This is just kind of what I've been doing. The glyph we have here is Territorial, 10% damage reduction against close enemies. You're always going to be up close against the enemies. Remember, we can move through monsters as well, so we can just move right into the middle of the pack. And then we'll deal increased damage to close targets with this. This tree isn't too bad. We have nature magic skill damage, which we do have with Pulverize now, and then a little bit of life and willpower over here. And then we can sneak into the top of the Ancestral Guidance tree for our 5th glyph. We have Undaunted. You gain 10% damage reduction the more Fortify you have. So if you're all the way at maximum Fortify, this is another 10% damage reduction, separate from Fortify, but on top of it. So this also gives us increased damage while fortified. And the nodes around here, we have core skill damage for Pulverize and some resistances. There's a lot of things you can do in here. I'll point out a couple places you can kind of move to and stuff. Over here, we have Spirit on Kill, which will be another nice source of keeping our spirit up. There's a couple nodes here, 1 Spirit on Kill, 1 Spirit on Kill. You know, if you feel like you're killing quite often, you can look to grab both of these and keep your spirit up more. Up here, we have a few choices as well. You have damage over time, damage taken over time reduction. We have Earth skill damage and critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies up in this corner, which is really, really solid. We have some more critical strike damage with Earth skills here. In this back corner, we have some armor, flat armor. I don't think this one will be too strong, so I would try to stay away from that one. Down here, we have damage while healthy. You're pretty much always going to be healthy, which is above 80% health. Between if you get Temerity, the barriers, or just the healing you're going to do, these are pretty solid nodes. We have damage to healthy enemies. I think this one's okay. Basically, it's just pretty much going to be for the first time you hit an enemy, you'll get this bonus. Not too bad. But I like the other ones I grabbed here. Down here, Werebear skill damage and overpower damage will be overpowering once in a while. So that feels pretty good. The other things I can advise are, as you're leveling up your glyphs, your range will increase on them, meaning you'll have more radius in which to put the points. So here, if you need willpower, you know, you've got a willpower node right here. You've got a willpower node right here. Once your radius gets bigger, that's going to depend on the person and how much they've worked on their glyphs though. So that's all I have for this build. I hope it didn't go too long. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Like I said, a lot of these builds were just kind of trying to get an idea what could be good, what could work. This is by no means set in stone whatsoever. There's tons of different options and ways you can play this. So use this as kind of like a basis to get some ideas going, and then yeah, try it out and see how you like it. I plan on playing a ton of different Druid builds. So if you guys have any questions about anything, please make sure you ask. But otherwise, until next time, I'll see you guys later.